Mangwana ni mwalelepo fukenjani klekwas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show that remains your portal into Africa's most important stories. You are joined by Ashwin Mbedi and later Rorisang Mogojwe will say Dumela from Botswana as she delivers the Botswana Report. She is on, of course, Gaborone. But prior to that, these are some of the top stories we'll be looking at from broader Africa. Recoveries bring hope as DR Congo battles Ebola outbreak. South Africa warns xenophobic attacks are damaging the country's image. Nigeria reintegrates thousands of former Boko Haram fighters. Healthy oceans are key to Africa's food security future. And we talk about the 40-year-old Botswana who led Cape Verde to the historic World Cup point against Spain. And speaking of the World Cup, these are the most recent results. Norway got the best of Iraq with Erling Haaland scoring a brace in his first World Cup appearance. Senegal, Africa's champions, unfortunately fell to the World Cup finalists from last time's competition, France, with Kylian Mbappe scoring 2 goals, Bakola having scored his goal after coming on to replace Dembele. And the man of the moment, some might say the man of the century, Lionel Messi, says he is here with a hat-trick at the World Cup. Let's see where this puts him in the all-time World Cup goal scorers rankings. He is now tied with Klose of Germany at number 1. He has officially surpassed Ronaldo from Brazil. And of course, he surpassed Müller, and Mbappe is still in the running. We could see this list change quite dramatically during this very World Cup. But for now, with regards to the person that many consider the greatest of all time, it's safe to say he's here. My name is Ashwin Mbedi. This is Africa Good Morning. Top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises. From artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
Now, singing and dancing broke the usual atmosphere of fear and loss at the Ebola treatment center in Mogojwe in northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo as healthcare workers celebrated the recovery of Daniel Kitambala. The 49-year-old left the clinic after 2 negative Ebola tests confirmed he was free of the virus following about 3 weeks of treatment. More than 140 people have been confirmed dead from the Bundibugyo species of Ebola in Ituri province, the center of the outbreak declared just over a month ago. Health officials continue efforts to control infections while confronting misinformation and local beliefs such as the so-called coffin curse. Authorities say some residents have wrongly blamed treatment centers for the disease, leading to attacks including the burning of medical facilities in Mogojwe and Rwampara. Dr. Richard Lukodu said recoveries were helping build confidence with more people now seeking treatment. South Africa's government says a recent surge in attacks against foreign nationals is harming the country's international reputation and creating consequences for businesses and artists. Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubai urged citizens to reject vigilantism and allow authorities to address illegal immigration through official channels. Recent weeks have seen protests and attacks directed at other African nationals, including some who are legally in the country, as anti-immigrant groups accuse foreigners of contributing to unemployment and crime. Kubai said many South African artists were experiencing cancellations of performances elsewhere on the continent and that companies operating abroad were also facing negative reactions. She warned the situation could damage both the national brand and social cohesion, noting that some South Africans had also been targeted because of their appearance or manner of speaking. Xenophobic sentiment remains a recurring issue and has intensified ahead of local elections scheduled for November. Countries including Ghana, Malawi, and Mozambique have repatriated citizens due to safety concerns. Now, authorities in Nigeria's northeastern Borno state say they have nearly 10,000 former Boko Haram fighters being reintegrated into society through a government-supported rehabilitation and de-radicalization program. The announcement followed the graduation of 720 former militants from a rehabilitation center in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State. Officials stated that the latest group raises the total number of former insurgents reintegrated into communities to 9,680. The program forms part of wider efforts aimed at weakening jihadist groups operating across the Lake Chad region by encouraging fighters to surrender and return to civilian life. Images from the ceremony showed hundreds of participants gathered at the rehabilitation facility where they took an oath before formally completing the program. Boko Haram's insurgency began more than a decade ago in northeastern Nigeria and has killed tens of thousands of people while displacing millions across the country. Now, fish remain one of Africa's most important yet often overlooked resources in the fight against food insecurity, according to marine and food systems expert Dr. Christina Hicks. Speaking at the 11th Our Ocean Conference in Mombasa, Kenya, she said fish provide essential micronutrients needed for physical and mental development and are often more affordable, easier to transport, and have a lower carbon footprint than other animal proteins. Dr. Hicks highlighted the importance of local fish markets, noting that dried fish distributed through informal networks help improve nutrition access for low-income households across the continent. She warned that pollution, climate change, and overexploitation are placing increasing pressure on marine ecosystems. The expert said healthy food systems require access to nutritious foods, sustainable fisheries, decent work, and healthy environments. She also stressed the importance of transparency, inclusive governance, and greater participation of small-scale fishers and coastal communities in decision-making processes. As Africa hosts the Our Ocean Conference for the first time, Dr. Hicks said the continent has an opportunity to strengthen leadership on ocean conservation. Now let's talk about Cape Verde goalkeeper Botswana, who became the symbol of a historic moment as the World Cup debutants secured a 0-0 draw against European champion Spain in Atlanta. Tears streamed down the 40-year-old's face after the final whistle as supporters celebrated one of the most significant results in the nation's history. Botswana, born Josimar Diaz, produced a standout display and was named player of the match after making 7 saves to preserve a clean sheet. He said he was thinking of his grandparents who had died before witnessing the achievement and his mother who could not attend because the visa was too expensive for her, $15,000 to be exact, keeping in mind that Cape Verde is a country of about 500,000 people made up of a collective of islands. Now, the goalkeeper credited Cape Verde's unity as the team's greatest strength and insisted they arrived at the tournament to compete rather than simply participate. At 40 years old and 12 days old, he became the oldest player to appear in a nation's debut World Cup match. and Africa is certainly behind him. I had the pleasure of watching a video of his father speaking about how good it was to see his son achieve this milestone, especially considering that his son was born during the 1986 World Cup. Something about Africa. This is Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we will be joined by Rorisang Mogojwe as she delivers the Botswana Report. All right, it's time for us to dive straight into the Botswana Report delivered by Rorisang Mogojwe. Rorisang, getting straight into your first story. Police are warning of escalating tensions between Botswana and Zimbabweans.
So the unrest comes amid growing accusations by local residents, particularly of that village of Mogojwe, which is just outside of the capital city of Gaborone, that foreign nationals, particularly Zimbabweans, are responsible for an increase in criminal activity in the area. And so police are saying that the latest incidents began after a report of malicious damage to a property at a local bar. According to authorities, the bar owner alleged that a group of Zimbabwean nationals locked several Botswana inside the premises before assaulting them. And during this confrontation, windows at the establishment were reportedly damaged after stones were thrown around. The Mogojwe acting police station commander says that tensions later escalated beyond this initial incident when a group of local residents allegedly retaliated by targeting foreign nationals at their homes. And so police are saying that foreign nationals were assaulted during these attacks, with one Zimbabwean man reportedly left unconscious and requiring medical attention. Authorities have actually condemned all these forms of violence and warned residents against taking the law into their own hands. And members of the public have since expressed concern about this escalating violence and these tensions between Botswana and Zimbabwean nationals, particularly looking at the fact that just right next door in South Africa, there are reports of xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals. And so the concern is that these incidents could be indicative of similar incidents to come or to happen within the borders of Botswana. And so they are urging law enforcement authorities and officials to take heed of these tensions and just curb it while they still can. But police have appealed to members of the public to remain calm and allow law enforcement agencies to investigate these allegations of criminal activity through proper legal channels. But at the time of reporting, no arrests had been made yet, and investigations into these incidents continue.
All right, Rorisang, we'll certainly be looking forward to an update on that story, particularly considering the fact that these tensions are indeed rising in South Africa as well. But it's not strictly an African issue. We know that in Ireland there has been some issues with regards to African migrants as well. So, you know, it's an interesting trend, but certainly one the world could do without. Now, in your next story, over 1,000 Ikageng workers have been deployed in the fight against foot and mouth disease.
Thank you, Ashwin. Well, the long and short of it is that Botswana is currently facing a foot and mouth disease outbreak crisis, which has significantly threatened Botswana's beef industry or livestock sector. And this is actually one of the country's key economic industries, as well as a major source of income for many households. Now, authorities are saying that the workers will play a critical role in supporting disease control measures, which are aimed at preventing further transmission, as well as protecting areas that still have not been affected or are currently unaffected. And this workforce or these individuals' responsibilities will include clearing bushes, construction of veterinary fences, demarcation of disease control zones, and assisting with the removal of cattle from border areas and other locations which are considered to be at high risk. Now, this move forms part of a broader strategy to establish an effective disease containment zone, as well as limit the movement of infected animals. Now, one other thing to note, Ashwin, is that officials have emphasized that containing this outbreak is essential not only for protecting farmers' livelihoods, but also for safeguarding Botswana's access to international export markets. If you recall, we reported here recently that the European Union, which is Botswana's largest export market for beef, has suspended beef imports from Botswana's FMD-free zones. And so this has significantly affected the beef industry and the sector as a whole. And so currently the FMD crisis has resulted in trade restrictions and significant financial losses for the livestock industry. We have also seen many businesses close, like butcheries and restaurants and burger joints, for example. And these are companies or businesses that were dependent on the beef sector. So ultimately, livelihoods have been affected. It's not just the export market as or the industry as a whole, but also individual households have been affected by this crisis. Meanwhile, though, the Ministry of Local Government and Traditional Affairs has instructed councils in affected districts to begin assessing and registering farmers and those households that are dependent on livestock that have been impacted by this outbreak. And really, this is just to establish the scale or the magnitude of the losses that have been suffered by these communities, and as well create a database that can guide future support and recovery interventions. The government has urged farmers to cooperate with veterinary officials, as well as just comply with all disease control measures as efforts continue to restore Botswana's FMD free status in unaffected areas, and ultimately to return the industry back to where it was thriving, where households were actually making incomes out of the industry. And of course, everybody looks forward to that, because currently there is shortage of beef in some areas, including in Gaborone, and prices have skyrocketed because of the shortage or the limited availability of beef within some areas of the country.
All right, Rorisang, we now swing over into the creative arts, and that's what gets me buzzing, particularly looking forward to the CST, Creative Sport and Tourism Expo, set to take place from 2 to 4 September, right here at the Hage Geingob Stadium in Namibia. But in this segment, we are focused on Botswana, and the biggest annual music showcase is back with record entries.
The Botswana Musicians Union, commonly known as BOMU, has officially unveiled the nominees for the 14th BOMU Music Awards after a one-year break. And organizers are saying that this year's awards have attracted unprecedented interest, which, according to them, highlights the continued growth and maturity of Botswana's music industry. The awards coordinator, Sabelo Mudibe, says that nearly 2,000 entries were submitted across various categories this year, which is a dramatic quote-unquote increase from the 483 entries which were received in 2024. Now, according to Sabelo, the sharp rise in submissions reflects growing confidence amongst local artists in their music, in their craft, in their business, and also demonstrates the increasing competitiveness of the industry. And so among these categories, Best Single emerged as the most fiercely contested category, which received the highest number of entries from musicians hoping to secure recognition at this year's awards ceremony. And leading the nominations is a popular musician, Hensi, who earned himself 6 nominations across several major categories. His nominations include Best Single, Best Amapiano, Best Remix, Best Male Artist, or Artists, Album of the Year, and Song of the Year, which makes him one of the standout contenders heading into the awards. Now, organizers are saying that the overwhelming response to this year's awards points to a vibrant and evolving music sector, with more artists producing music and seeking platforms to showcase their talent. And so the return of the BOMU Music Awards is expected to generate significant excitement amongst artists and fans alike as the industry gathers once again to celebrate local music talent.
Exciting times ahead indeed. Thank you very much, Rorisang, for delivering the Botswana Report, which rounds off this broadcast of Africa Good Morning on DSTV 285, GOtv 25, oneup2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. Remember that, NTV Africa, the Africa is spelled with a K. NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. You can always watch any episode of Africa Good Morning as long as it's been, released live, and of course other shows from NTV. My name is Ashwin Bedi. As we say, Swerai Jakanaka, we leave you with the indicators.